Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom Airsoft. It's good to see you. If it's your first time here, then thanks for stopping by. I hope you're going to stick around. And if you're one of my regular viewers, welcome back. It's good to see you again. Okay, well, we're here on our midweek video, as you all should well know by now. I normally look to upload a video midweek and one at the weekend. We're not currently doing our midweek gameplay videos because I'm currently out of action still. So we're doing 2 studio videos a week at the moment. So with that in mind, if you have been watching my series of videos, if you are enjoying them, and I hope you are enjoying them, then please do subscribe to the channel. That way you won't miss any of my uploads. And if you want more content from the channel, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram as Rock Bottom Airsoft, and there's pictures and other bits and pieces about the channel on there. So hopefully I'll see you on there or see you again on here. So what are we going to be looking at today? Well, today for our studio video, I thought we'd look at an oldie but a goldie. It's a replica that you probably have encountered if you've been playing Airsoft for any length of time, or if you're new into Airsoft, it might be something you've encountered as perhaps a rental, depending on what your field uses as rental replicas. It's a good replica, and it's sturdy, and it's long-standing, and it's been around for ages. But these days, the reason I thought I'd do an introduction to it and a little bit of a brief over it is because you don't see them as often on the field, especially not at my home site at Tazball Airsoft. These are actually used as the rental replicas at my home site, Tazball Airsoft. But you don't see many of them outside of the rental arena. And I haven't seen many in the field compared to what you used to see a lot of them. And what replica am I on about? Well, I'm on about one of these. This is a G36. The real steel counterpart of this replica is the H&K G36, a fine assault rifle. In the Airsoft world, it's an AEG, or you can get it as a gas blowback. As many of you'll know that know me or follow the channel, I don't dabble much in gas blowback rifles. I'm more AEG, and this particular AEG is an SRC G36 with the integral sight, just as the real steel ones would come with. Obviously there's variants in the real steel world as well. So the reason I'm introducing this is because I think these are a superb replica, especially if you're new into the sport and you're looking for a replica. The go-to replica for most new players, and a lot of players in general, including myself because I love them, is an AR-based replica, or an M4 or an M16 or something along those lines. That's usually the type of thing most people go for, and there's a lot of reasons to do that. But don't discount the G36. It's a fine replica. Now, if you're looking for one of these and you fancy one, or you just fancy a change, you fancy something a little bit different from your AR or your AK replicas, because again, we see a lot of ARs and a lot of AK based replicas on the field, but not as many of these days. Now, if you're fancying a G36 and you're searching on the web for a supplier, or if you're in your local shop, they're also known as an AR36. So G36, AR36, you know, you take your pick. If you do a search for either of those for Airsoft replicas, you should come up with something like this. Now, price-wise, they vary enormously. For a G36 replica, you can go anywhere from 110 British pounds all the way up to about 300 British pounds, dependent on the variant you get, depending on whether you get gas blowback or whether you get an AEG. Now, I'm primarily here talking about AEGs, and even in the AEG world, you can go up to all the way up to about 300 British pounds for one of these. But don't let that worry you, because the more affordable ones, such as this SRC one that's sat in front of you here, they can be had for very reasonable money. Brands such as Cyma, JG, or Jing Gong, you might see them as, SRC, they do variants that are around about 100 to 150 British pounds. The Cyma and JG G36s are superb. I've worked on many of them. They're built like a tank. They generally don't break. they're very, very good, and they feel nice in the hand as well. They've got a good weight to them, so there's no problems there. If you want to step up a little bit, Specna Arms now do a version of the G36. They do a number of variants. They're around about the 200 British pounds mark. I don't have any experience with the Specna ones, unfortunately. I've only ever worked on Cyma, JG and SRC. There is also a further step up. ICS do variants of AEGs for the G36s, and also you've got G&G. It's quite hard to get hold of, from what I've seen, is the G&G G36, but they're around about the 250 British pound mark. And then obviously there's Tokyo Marui. They'll do a version of the G36 as well. Again, no experience with the TM one, but if it's anything like these ones, I'm sure it'll be superb. So let's have a quick look round this replica. We'll do our usual quick look round it, and then we'll have a quick chat about it, okay? Okay, so we've had a good look around it. As you can probably tell, this particular G36 I've got here is quite a long replica. I'm struggling to fit it all on camera here, as you can probably tell. So let's go into it then. We've gone over some of the brands that you can get for it. Speaking about the size of this particular replica, this is a full-size G36. It's in use primarily with a lot of forces in the real steel world. I believe the German army still use the G36. You might have seen here in Britain, the British police here have been known to use G36 carbines. And they're in use with lots of other forces the world over. So it's a popular rifle in the real steel world. Here in Airsoft, we get all of the variants you can think of. There's a full-length G36. You can get a carbine, which is slightly shorter than this version. You can also get a sniper variant of it. It's still an AEG. Not encountered anybody using one of them myself on a field, so that is quite a rare one to see on the field. Again, all the brands that I've mentioned do variants of this. I believe JG have the biggest selection of G36 variants. They do the sniper variant in a number of different layouts. If you look those up, I'll put a few links in the description as always as to where you can get these G36s. And I won't put a link to a specific one, I'll just put a link to the pages that I found with AR36 or G36 variants, so you can have a look at all the different variants you can get. The only variant of this that you can't get is something called the MG36. Which was a light machine gun variant that H&K produced, but I believe in the real steel world it's very rare, and in the airsoft world it's pretty much non-existent. I've never seen one. You can make one. That is something I'm looking to do. By piecing various parts together, you'd be able to make an MG36, but if you're just looking to buy one, then every other variant you can think of, pretty much you can get an airsoft replica of. So size is not an option. Most G36 variants that you come across will have this folding stock. The stock folds away like so. Not all of them have that. Some of them will have a fixed stock. There are accessories where you can put a buffer tube on there, such as an AR would have with an adjustable sliding stock, but most variants will come with this folding stock on G36s, especially the carbines. The full-length ones will have a folding stock. What that does mean is that you'll have a front mount battery, which battery fitment on the G36 is not too difficult at all. You can get a LiPo in there fairly easily. 7.4 volt LiPo is pretty safe to use on most of the variants of G36, even the more affordable ones. Most of the affordable ones won't come with a MOSFET as standard, So it could be worthwhile fitting one. But on the rental G36s from my home site at Tasball Airsoft I've worked on, they've been run on NIMH for 7-8 years, and most of them, the trigger contacts are absolutely fine. So I'd imagine you get quite a few years use out of one with the 7.4 volt LiPo, even without the MOSFET. So you've got no worries for battery fitment. Batteries are pretty easy to fit in there. If you've got the full stock ones, I believe most of them are still front wired from an AEG perspective. Obviously if you get a gas blowback one, that's not an issue. I know WE do a gas blowback one. You can have different variations on your rail systems. This one has got a quad rail on it. I mounted this grip with bipod myself. Obviously that doesn't come with them, but you can get them. This is a full metal rail, quad rail. You can get them with a quad rail. You can get them with the normal handguard that you'll see more commonly with a G36. Some of the carbine versions have a hand stop built into the handguard. You get different barrel lengths for carbine and non-carbine. As I said, the variations in the G36 world are vast. Some have a rail, some don't have a rail. Some of them will have this inbuilt optic. I believe it's a 1.5 by optic on this, just across her. This is what you traditionally see with a G36, such as the German Army would carry. But you can get versions where they don't have this built-in carry handle and sight. They will have a rail, a full-length top rail, so oceans of room for optics and things like that. And you can fit whatever optic you want if you get one with a rail. That goes for the carbines. The sniper variants will have a rail for a scope. So, you know, the variations for your top rail, again, just like the front handguard and the receiver sets, they're very varied in the G36 world. So you can get something truly unique, or indeed you can build something unique even when you have this inbuilt optic. This particular one still has a small rail on the top there. So you've got plenty of rail space, plenty of options depending on which one you pick for how you want it to look, how you want it to behave. I quite like the inbuilt optic on this SRC. It's not a quality optic by any stretch of the imagination, but I like the look of it. You know, it looks good, and as many of you who know me will know, is I very rarely use my optics on my replicas. They're just for the look. It's still clear though. The eye relief on it is good. As for accuracy of it, I couldn't possibly comment because I don't really use it, but it does work as a sight, so it is there if you're after that type of thing, especially on this SRC one. So you can have inbuilt sights, or you can have a top rail and work from there. Now, magazine-wise, the magazines are specific to G36 variants. You can get a number of different types of magazine. Actually, I quite like these clear ones, because in the real steel world, a lot of them are clear polymer magazines where you can see the rounds in there, which this imitates. This is a mid-cap magazine. This is a standard high-cap G36 magazine. These magazines are very affordable. They're normally plentiful and not difficult to get hold of. You're looking at prices of between £10 per magazine, £10 British per magazine, all the way up to around about £30 British per magazine. So, you know, the world's your oyster as far as magazines are concerned. You can get mid caps, low caps, high caps. You can also get drum magazines for these. If you want the C-mag, which is the twin drum that sits either side, that's like an authentic G36 drum. Unfortunately, they are very hard to get hold of, and I've heard rumours that they can be quite unreliable. The mid-cap and high-cap magazines feed absolutely fine. They're affordable. You might notice on the side here we have these little pins. They are so that you can link two magazines together. I'll never get this right when I try it. There we go. So that's you. Two magazines can be clipped together. You can still run the magazines individually, but you've got a spur ready to go. Magazine release is easy. It's a paddle, like on an MP5. Or an AK, and just a paddle on the bottom here for undoing your magazines for your mag release. So yeah, the magazines, it's quite a nifty trick that they clip together like that as standard. It makes it pretty cool if you want to have a couple clipped together. As for pouches for the magazines, pouches are easy to get hold of. I'll put links in the description where you can get mag pouches from. And they're affordable. I think at a push you could fit some of these in your cargo pockets. They're slightly bigger than an AR magazine. and a slightly different shape, but I think I have managed to fit them in an AR pouch at a push, you know what I mean. Parts for these G36s are plentiful. The G36, the vast majority of them, in an AEG basis, are a front-wired version-free gearbox. Version-free gearbox is an awesome gearbox, very strong, very upgradable. They do have many parts available for version-free gearboxes. Pretty much AKs run on a version-free, so there's that many of them about. Obviously there's loads of parts, so upgrade potential for one of these is endless. This one is currently stock. I bought this as a used replica from one of my friends. I've still got to do work on it. All I've done at the moment is put a Dean's connector on there, but I am planning to do upgrades on this replica. They are easy to take down. Vast majority is pins. The gearbox is easy to take out. Because it's a version 3, the motor cage is mounted to the gearbox, so it makes adjustments for shimming and that type of thing very easy. And as I say, there is an absolute world of parts out there for you to do upgrades on these. As for the actual hop-up and the barrel group, the hop-up unit on these as standard is very good. It's accessed with the Mach charging handle, which is ambidextrous, and it's a rotary style hop-up as standard. Again, in this SRC, it's a metal hop unit as standard, and the hop units generally are very good as standard. If you do want an aftermarket hop unit, there's a number of companies such as Airsoft Pro that make aftermarket hop units. The inner barrel is quite lengthy. It's quite a good inner barrel. They vary, obviously dependent on the type of G36 variant you get, but on average they go from about 309mm for some of the carbines all the way up to 509mm for some of the longer versions of the G36. So barrel length isn't really an issue, and barrels, again, it's an AEG barrel, so they're very easy to get hold of. So there's no problems there. As for the feel of the replica, they are quite heavy, especially this one with it having the metal rail, the metal handguards, and the inbuilt sight. They are quite a heavy replica, especially when you've got a magazine, a fully loaded magazine and a battery in there. They're quite heavy. That's one thing I will say. Some people don't like the front mount battery, you know, the front wired gearbox, but not really a problem on these. It's still easy to change the battery. Magazine changes are easy and intuitive and nice. The mag release is easy to get at, so magazine changes are easy. The controls for full, semi and safe are ambidextrous, fully ambidextrous, so both sides. It's good for lefties and righties, which is nice, same as the real steel replica, and it shoulders nicely. This one is full length. I imagine a carbine is much easier to maneuver on the field. This one can be a bit bulky. As I say, it's quite heavy, so that can lead to a few problems if you're not happy with the heavier replica, if you want to go lighter. But if you want to go lighter, then go for one of the carbine models. So there you go. That's the G36 or AR36 in the Airsoft world, the AEG version primarily. I hope we've covered some information for you, give you some ideas of a replica you might want to consider, that you might want to have a go at. Like I say, you don't see them on the field as often as you used to do, so it is a little bit different than your AKs and your AR variants. So if you do fancy something a little bit different, I hope that's given you food for thought. I hope it's something that you might consider. Let me know in the comments if you have a G36, if you've done any upgrades to it, if there's any recommendations you can make for my G36, because it's a project I'm about to start. Let me know in the comments if you're not a big fan of the G36. Or drop a comment below if you've got any questions for me in general. I'll always respond to a comment. Might not get back to you straight away, but I will always get back to you. So I hope you've enjoyed that brief look around the G36 or the AR36 variant, and I hope I'll see you on the field maybe one day with one of those. But that's about us covered for the G36 for now. As I say, I'll try and get some tech videos up for the G36 as I start to work on it. That's one that I've got to work on at the moment. And apart from that, if you like the video, then please do drop a like on it. If you're not so much, then let me know in the comments where we could improve. And thank you very much for watching. I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one.